There is an invisible line in every life. Most people never notice when they cross it, because it doesn't look dramatic. It doesn't announce itself. It doesn't feel like a turning point. It feels like a small compromise, a lowered expectation, a delayed promise, a quiet acceptance of less. That line separates who you could become from who you are, slowly training yourself to remain. And the only thing that moves that line is your standards. Not the standards you talk about, not the standards you post about, but the standards you enforce when no one is watching. This video is about the aggression they don't teach you, the aggression of high standards. Because high standards are not about perfection, they are about identity, and identity is everything. Most people treat standards like preferences. I'd like to be disciplined. I hope to be consistent. I want to be focused. Those are not standards. Those are wishes. A standard is something you do not negotiate. A standard is not flexible. It is not emotional. It does not adjust to convenience. High standards are not about pressure. They are about clarity. They answer the question, what kind of person do I refuse to be? Because once you know what you refuse to be, your actions become simpler. Every day you are training your identity, not through intention, through behavior. When you tolerate procrastination, you train yourself to expect delay. When you tolerate inconsistency, you train yourself to accept instability. When you tolerate mediocrity, you train yourself to live below capacity. High standards interrupt that training. They replace tolerance with expectation. They say, this is not acceptable for who I am becoming. And identity begins to shift. Low standards feel compassionate. They feel forgiving. They feel gentle. But low standards are not kindness. They are avoidance. Avoidance of discomfort. Avoidance of accountability. Avoidance of responsibility. High standards feel uncomfortable at first because they expose the gap between who you are and who you could be. And most people would rather reduce the vision than raise the effort. When your standards are low, your life feels chaotic. You debate every decision. You negotiate with yourself. You rely on emotion. High standards remove chaos. They simplify life. You don't ask, should I show up today? You ask, how well will I show up? That is the difference. High standards are not arrogance. They are self-respect. They say, I will not betray my future self for present comfort. They say, I refuse to train myself to accept less than my potential. That is aggression, not toward others, toward weakness. Motivation fades. Standards remain. Motivation says, I feel like doing better. Standards say, this is how I live now. When behavior becomes identity, effort becomes natural. You stop forcing yourself. You simply act in alignment with who you are becoming. Identity does not change in a moment. It shifts quietly. You notice you no longer accept excuses. You notice you feel uncomfortable with inconsistency. You notice your tolerance for chaos disappears. That is standards working. Not loudly, not dramatically. Internally, high standards separate you, not because you think you're better, but because you no longer resonate with lower expectations. You don't judge others. You simply no longer match their rhythm, and that can feel lonely. But loneliness is often the price of elevation. When standards rise, choices shrink. You stop asking, is this easy? You ask, is this aligned? Alignment becomes the filter, and alignment creates momentum. Most people negotiate with themselves all day. I'll do it later. Just this once. Tomorrow will be better. High standards end negotiation. They replace it with expectation, and expectation shapes behavior. Anyone can have standards when life is calm. The test comes under pressure. When you are tired, when you are emotional, when you are frustrated. High standards hold, not perfectly, but consistently, because they remove excuses, and excuses are comfortable. High standards demand growth. Growth is uncomfortable, but discomfort is temporary. Regret is permanent. Every time you meet your standard, you build trust with yourself. Every time you break it, you weaken that trust. High standards protect self-trust, and self-trust is confidence. Identity is what you tolerate. If you tolerate chaos, you identify with chaos. If you tolerate mediocrity, you identify with mediocrity. If you tolerate inconsistency, you identify with inconsistency. Raise your standards, and your identity must follow. High standards do not demand perfection. They demand consistency. Consistency is aggressive because it does not wait for mood. It does not wait for clarity. It does not wait for permission. One day, you realize something has changed. You no longer force discipline. You no longer chase focus. You no longer tolerate chaos. You have become the standard. That is identity transformation, because it hurts less. Lowering standards protects the ego. Raising effort exposes weakness. But growth only happens where weakness is confronted. High standards are built through non-negotiables, not long lists, not complicated rules, just a few behaviors you refuse to betray. Those behaviors become identity anchors. When standards rise, the future changes. Not magically, inevitably, because behavior aligns with expectation, and expectation shapes destiny. Not because you think you are superior, but because your standards no longer match their tolerance. This is not rejection, it is evolution, because you will disappoint people. You will say no more often. You will tolerate less. You will demand more, and not everyone will like that version of you, but your future will. At some point, you must draw a line, not for others, for yourself. A line that says, this is who I am now, and then you live like it. High standards demand honesty. You stop lying to yourself. You stop romanticizing weakness. You stop justifying delay. That honesty is aggressive because it changes everything. Destiny is not chosen. It is enforced by standards. You stop chasing motivation. You stop asking for permission. You stop negotiating. You simply live by your standards. And in doing so, you become someone new. The aggression they don't teach you is not loud. It is not reckless. It is the aggression of refusing to live below your potential. Because high standards do not just change behavior. They change who you are. And once identity changes, everything follows. High standards are not pressure. They are a declaration of who you refuse to stop becoming.